hitting that in the morning, sustaining from alcohol, sustaining from any drugs, having mental clarity, and showing up for friends, for family, for calls.
But it all comes back to the fact that you feel like Superman. If my family is having a medical emergency, you are the first person I want on scene to take care of my family and save their life. I remember flying home from Massachusetts and assuming that your father's going to be passed away. I finally get there and I walk in the room and he's sitting upright, looks at me and goes, "Hey, Eric, thanks for coming." And I'm like, stop. I'm looking around. I'm like, wait a minute. What's going on here?
Totally. Dude, it was weird.
It was awesome.
It was awesome. Dude,
Welcome to the Sweat Fanatic Podcast, and I have the pleasure of having my best friend Luke Amon on the podcast, and we've known each other for close to 2 decades now. We're best friends. We've been co-workers at the fire department, at Good Health Saunas, and we've known a lot about each other. We know each other's family very well, inside and out. And if there's anybody that matches my passion or exceeds my passion for sauna use and ice baths, it's this man right here, Luke Amon. So thanks for coming on, Luke. How you doing?
I'm doing great. Actually, about a half hour ago, I just got out of the sauna session, and thanks for having me, man. It's
of course.
I'm glad you're doing this and sharing the word and the truth, you know, and that's what it's all about feeling your best self, right, without synthetic things, right?
The chemicals in the water, in the food, in the air, and all that type of stuff, for sure. Yeah, I just used my sauna this morning with Claire, and I am on fire this morning. So let's give the audience some of your background. And, you grew up in southeastern Wisconsin, and we met through the fire department, and we both worked at a couple fire departments together. So what made you get into fighting fires, going to school? What made you want to be a firefighter?
You know, I think through high school, I loved adrenaline.
Yeah.
You know, so, and going through high school, I really didn't know what the hell I was going to do. But I knew I loved, I thought it was the coolest job in the world, you know, going to a house fire and going inside and putting it out. Like, you know, I'm a kid and I'm like, what's better than that? So yeah, after I graduated high school, I just jumped right into it. And that's, you know, our story and our journey. That's where we kind of started the whole thing.
Yeah. And I know I've been on so many fire scenes, ambulance calls, and I will say this, number one, if my family is having a medical emergency, you are the first person I want on scene to take care of my family and save their life. And that is the truth. I have not been around a better paramedic than you, and even firefighter. So I know you've never been worried about fighting fire. It's never been a concern of yours. But when you first started thinking about being a firefighter and fighting fire, did you have any hesitancy? Did it ever worry you, or was it just more about like, let's do this? This looks fun.
First off, man, thanks for saying that. I appreciate that. And it was never a thought, you know. It was just never a thought of, once I was, 18 going into it, like what should I do? You know, so even going to calls and whatnot, just like you, it's like we go in and we get the job done. But as I got older, you saying that, I found sauna and ice, right, to give me mental clarity. So to go on calls where I'm sharp, I'm not missing a beat. And that's a huge component of the job, of life, of that. If I didn't have, and we chuckle because that's all we do is talk about like how to feel the best and have mental clarity. But like, if I didn't have that, you wouldn't be saying that. Right. It's the truth. You would not be saying that about me.
Yeah, for sure. And with all the fire departments that put saunas in and all the health benefits that they talk about, they tend to lean towards the detoxification process of fighting fire and firefighters and all the chemicals from the smoke that we absorb in our skin and inhale and stuff and getting that stuff out of us. But that's what I really try to get firemen to understand is that that's just one little small aspect of this, right? The mental clarity, the mood, the performance enhancing, the cardio, the recovery, muscles, all that type of stuff. And the mental side of things, that gets overlooked a lot of the times. What do you enjoy most about being a firefighter? Is it the helping people? Is it being there when people need you the most? Is it the camaraderie at the station with all the guys and gals? What's your favorite part about it?
I think everything you just said, I think it's not knowing what's going to happen when you're there, okay? And being ready for every situation that comes your way. And, I look at that as being a dad, as, being a partner, like each day is different. And like me being the man that I am at the house and at the job, like being prepared for anything that comes. Mm-hmm. And again, back into sauna and ice, hitting that in the morning, sustaining from alcohol, sustaining from any drugs, having mental clarity, and showing up for friends, for family, for calls. We talk about it, like performing at your highest level.
Yep.
And, but yeah, what I enjoy about it is like, it's different every day, right?
Yep. And I always equate it, and I'll say it around the firehouse is, hey, performance athletes are the highest athletes in the world. They do every single thing that they do is to get their mentality and their performance and their peak physical condition to perform at the highest level. And when you're a firefighter, paramedic, doctor, nurse, first responder, police officer, you need to perform at the highest level. So like lives are on the line with this for real. And I've always figured in my head, I have to perform at the highest level so I can save as many lives as possible, help families have positive outcomes after calls and stuff like that. So so you also love hot yoga, and you're a certified hot yoga instructor, and that's kind of how you started into the sauna sweating journey and stuff like that. So tell us a little bit about hot yoga, your background, what you like about it.
Well, that's what started this whole thing. So, I mean, to backtrack a little bit, from 15 to 25 years old, okay, I'm 38 now, heavy alcohol use, trying to search and find the feeling that I found with sauna, ice, nutrition, mentally, spiritually, emotionally, nutritionally, right? All those things. I was submerged with like everybody, like a lot of people, alcohol and a little bit drug use on the weekend and this and that and lost, right? So when I was 22 years old, I remember vividly my sister saying, "You have to come to this Bikram yoga class." I go, what is Bikram yoga? I think I was 21. What is Bikram? I don't want to go. I ended up going. I was hungover. I went, 90-minute class, downtown Milwaukee, and I was driving home, and I'm like, oh boy. No. Oh boy. I felt so good.
Yeah.
Like all of it, right? So good. And that's what slowly transitioned into me becoming an instructor. What really like jump-started everything, moving out to Santa Monica for that year and really getting sober, eating clean, like doing a boatload of yoga, becoming a yoga instructor. You want to talk about bringing you to the first, okay, how Eric got involved in this?
Talk about it.
I'm at the firehouse. I became I wasn't a yoga instructor yet. I was going through it or close to it. Eric's overweight. He's just eating I can see
Wild berry Skittles.
Yeah, he looks like garbage and
feel like garbage,
thinks like garbage. And I'm like, hey, dude, you have to come to this. I'm not going there, I'm not wearing my underwear and doing hot yoga. And I'm working on him for weeks on end, right? And finally, he's like, all right, I'll go, right? And I remember it. It was sunny out. The sun's coming in the hot room, so it's even hotter. He did a class. And he called me, 3 hours later? What was the time when you called me?
Yeah, it was later in the day. Like, man, I feel unbelievable. I don't know that I've ever felt better. And I remember it was early. It was an early morning class. It was a 90-minute Bikram class, and I get there, and I mean, it was like a 45-minute drive for me to get to the class. I'm in my work truck, and I park, and Luke's not there yet, and I'm sitting there. I'm like, I can't go in. I'm not a yogi. Like, I'm going to look like a fool. This is ridiculous. I got to get out of here. Just as I'm starting to put the truck into drive, Luke pulls up and parks right in front of me. And I'm like, oh no, I'm busted. He got me. I have to go. I can't bail now before I can make up some excuse. I can't make up no excuse now. So I'm like, all right, well, I guess I'm doing this. And then went in there, and first of all, the class was packed. You had 2 spots right next to each other. That was it. There was that many people in this huge studio. And we go in there, and yeah, I remember thinking, holy cow. First of all, I'm a firefighter and the heat is getting to me. I feel like I need to get out of this hot room. And then I'm like, I'm claustrophobic. I can feel the walls closing in on me. And I'm like, I got to get out of here. But and I just remember hey, just settle down, lay down on your back if you need to bail, but just stay in the room. You just stay in the room. And I did stay in the room, and it was an experience. So thank you for introducing me to Bikram yoga.
You're welcome. That had to be over a decade ago.
Yeah. 10 years for sure, if not more. Yeah, because then we got into the saunas, and we got one at the fire station and all that type of stuff. Well, we might as well get into that. So how did you get into saunas then? Because you became passionate about hot yoga, about sweating. And then at the same time, I was starting to listen to or find out about the benefits of sauna use. And I started to go to Experience Fitness using the hot rock sauna there. You became a hot yoga instructor, all while we're, best friends at the firehouse. And you were getting into the yoga. I was into the yoga, but getting into the saunas. And then you found out about infrared, and I didn't know much about infrared. And you were talking to me about the benefits of that, where I was talking about using the hot rock sauna. And then we just kind of merged together, where I brought you to your first hot rock sauna at a hotel, which you enjoyed. You got you got the infrared sauna, the Good Health saunas, into our firehouse and started using that. And I mean, what was your mentality when you first heard about infrared? What were your thoughts about it? Tell me about that.
I mean, when I first heard of infrared, I was like, I don't know, I don't like it, and the story goes like this. How I got involved in selling Good Health saunas is I'm teaching hot yoga. Here comes this gentleman into the studio, right? And he's in the back corner, and I remember it was hotter than hell. That class, it was an 8 a.m. class on Sunday, 90-minute class, and he was a warrior in the back right corner, scratching and flailing around on the mat, but he stayed in the room, and I could tell, then after the class, I had no idea who this dude was.
Mm-hmm.
I was talking about the benefits of sweating.
Yep, which you always did in your classes.
Right. And the benefits of the internal organs, and like the real stuff of what's happening to the kidneys, the liver, the spleen, the pain, all the stuff with the compression of the hot yoga. And so I'm talking to him about it, and he asked me for his number. He's like, hey, can I have your number? And at first I was like, well, what do you mean? And long story short, he's like, hey, I'm the owner of Good Health Saunas. I own Good Health Saunas. I'm like, well, what's that? And my dad was going through some cancer stuff. I got him the 3-person signature corner unit.
Yep.
I did a sauna session in it, and I was like, sold. Right.
Yep.
Sold. And we looked at, EMFs and the wood quality and all these other things, because I was comparing, just like, now I find out, everybody else to, well, what why is this one $1,200? And then I was educated on it. I came out and started selling them, and here I am, 10 years later.
So you have had multiple saunas, infrared, traditional. Your dad's had multiple infrared saunas. You sent your dad to Hippocrates. He was using one there. I mean,
I sent my dad to a 3-week Hippocrates. If anybody knows my dad, like, Going
Oh my gosh. This is old school burly guy with the mustache. Talks
cigar
raspy.
smoking.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yep. Owns a bar. Tough guy. Like, oh yeah. Those type of guys, you know, just like my stepdad, you know, construction worker. And what is picturing him in Hippocrates where they're eating sprouts. I think it's vegan or
Oh yeah, it's vegan. Yeah,
Yeah.
Sprouts, juicing every day, fasting every Wednesday. Like, he told me that he paid the cleaner to go grab him Fruit Loops. To sneak in the Fruit Loops he's eating. But no, I mean, you ask him right now, you call him up and say, hey, how did you feel? And let's backtrack. Like the reason I was basically on my knees telling my dad to go somewhere, right? And I did a boatload of research in Hippocrates. If anybody knows about that institute, I mean, it's a killer place.
Yep.
Was I knew, looking at his body, I knew he was going to get cancer. Like I just knew, you know, smoking, eating like garbage. And that's something that I want to talk to you about and share is like, that's my passion. And you know, this is cancer and why 1 in 3 Americans get cancer,
Mm-hmm.
you know, in America.
Oh yeah.
And people think it's such a high genetic problem. But if you do your research, it's only 5 to 10% genetic. 90% to 95% environmental stress. We talk about lack of sleep, nutrition, right? Like
Not moving your body, all that type of stuff.
using the sauna, not shocking the body, right? And fasting and do all these things. So anyways, that's where I sent him there and not to be like, well, I told you so. Months after he got diagnosed with the deadliest form of cancer, stage 4 peritoneal carcinomatosis, 3-week survival rate of this type of cancer.
Yep. Oh, I remember vividly. And I was out at the Big E in Massachusetts. You called me. You're like, hey, this is it. My dad's passing away. And I got on a plane, showed up, and what a miraculous recovery. Like, you don't see success stories like that very often. And it's a big part of what you had him doing. I mean, so Luke's family, he's very family oriented. If you can have a family as close as you can be, Luke's family is one of those things, and it's very important. Number one to him, for sure. And, you know, his entire family was by his side. And when Luke found out that his father had the deadliest form of cancer out there, he went and researched all day, every day, full-blown research. What caused it? What is it? How do you fight it? What helps it grow? What helps it diminish? And he learned just literally everything about it. So in order to help save his dad and save his dad's life. So, yeah, I mean, if there's anybody that knows about that experience, it's going to be you for sure, and what to do, and I see it all the time when you're talking to people. They come to you and they walk in the sauna booth and they're like, hey, our doctor told us to look into this. I have cancer. And you share your story, what helped, what you didn't think worked as well. And, you know, you connect with these people and they leave with like a notebook full of information that has nothing to do with the sauna. You got the sauna in there as well, but a notebook of information to go use to fight this disease, this deadly disease.
It was literally like, I'm not proud to say this, but like it would keep me up at night and I would be doing endless amount of research on this. And what kept me up at night was me going to the oncologist with, I mean, my dad's another story. My mom passed away of cancer, and you know, and that's a whole nother story. But going to my dad's cancer was real quick and spontaneous remission, and it's unbelievable. But seeing these oncologists, I'm not saying all, but seeing these cancer floors and them handing out bowls of candy and sugar, like, and sitting with my mom during this oncologist, you know, meet and greet, and him looking at my mom and saying that nutrition, A, doesn't play a role in cancer, or B, matters.
That's
Like,
wild.
it blew my mind, and it really upset me, because how many other people are being told this?
Mhm.
You know, and that's not the truth, right? I mean, you and I, we're truth seekers. That's why we sell this product. That's why we do what we do. Like, we are truth seekers in every aspect of life.
Yeah.
And like that's what really hurt my heart, is like, oh wow, that's what they're doing. Hey, and I'm not saying some chemos don't work, some immunotherapies don't work, but like, hey, you can't look at somebody and say nutrition doesn't help or play a role in cancer. You know what I mean, Eric?
For sure. Oh yeah, 100%. So being in this story, you know, both your parents having cancer at the same time and stuff like that, how did the story end with your father? What changed things around? What do you think turned things around?
So literally, my dad gets diagnosed, comes home. I mean, it was at your wedding.
Yeah.
Is when you went to the ER.
Oh, I remember that. Yeah.
And my mom called me 2 hours later saying he's got tumors all over his body, right? Immediately, I started doing research, right? I drive over there, he went down literally in a week and a half, okay? No bowel movement, fluid retaining, can't breathe, and we are...
Aren't you begging him in the hospital? Like you're like managing his airway almost? What's...
I'll get to that climax, right?
Yeah.
Because it's intense. So they're basically saying, hey, stage 4 peritoneal carcinomatosis, set up hospice, he's going to die, right? And you know who I am, like, no, that's not going to happen. You know, like God will, you know, do what he does, but I'm going to try to do as much as I can do for my father. Okay. I get him on a protocol. I'm doing ECXT. I'm doing supplements. I'm doing sauna, right, every night. I had to give him a enema. Like, I mean, this is life or death stuff, right? He didn't make a bowel movement for a week and a half. Long story short, okay, and this is all in 3 weeks, not even 2.5 weeks. He goes to, he can't breathe, right? And I know this is happening to him. He can't breathe. He's going in flash pulmonary edema. You know, me and you and I being paramedics, we know this. I see it. I know this is happening. He's on a cancer floor, right? He can't breathe. He's looking for stuff. I look at the doctor that's there, cancer doctor, and I go, he's going to flash. Okay, call the code, right? Sure enough, here he goes, flashes. I grab the BVM. My mom walks in the room. I'm breathing for my dad. My dad's looking up at me, having the death stare, and goes, pulseless non-breathing. Okay, codes.
Yep.
On the table with me there. The guy comes, the freighter code card comes in, the guy, you know, the doc, the nurse. I look at the guy that's going to intubate my dad. I say, hey, do you know what you're doing? Like, are you a student? You know, because they're students there. I want to make sure this is done right. He goes, no, I'm a military paramedic with so-and-so. He ends up in the ICU on a ventilator, okay? Now, meanwhile, prior to this, I've been doing everything, right?
Yeah.
But now he's in a fasted state, okay? Because people go, well, hang on, how did he go into a spontaneous remission from looking at the scan of having tumors all over to walking out a week after?
Yep.
And this is what I think. He did immunotherapy right away, 1 dose, okay? He was in a fasted state. And you know and I know that not all types of cancers, but a lot of them don't respond well to a fasted state, okay? They start committing suicide.
Mm-hmm.
This is day 3, right? ICU. Freighter doesn't hold the cancer patients longer than 3 days. They might have changed, right? This is 7 years ago.
Yeah.
So don't fact check that. I don't know. But day 3, they say, hey, we're going to have to pull the ventilator. Okay. The specific doctor that I really like and did a great job goes, we got to pull the ventilator on your dad. I go, yeah, yes, he's dead. He wouldn't want to be in this vegetable state. Pull the ventilator. My mother, that ended up dying a 1.5 years after this incident, which the whole thing is too much to comprehend,
Right.
goes, no, we are not pulling the tube on my husband, the ventilator. Okay, that's around 3:00 in the afternoon. I get a phone call. I don't leave the hospital. I'm outside with my brother. I get a phone call at 11:00. It's my sister screaming on the phone. I think my dad died. I go up the elevator floor, I walk in the room, and my dad extubated himself, is breathing on his home, and basically leaves the hospital 4 days after and goes into a spontaneous remission a week after.
Wow. Yeah, that is an incredible story. And I remember flying home from Massachusetts to, you know, assuming that your father's going to be passed away. By the time I get there and I get to the hospital, you got to go, it's a huge complex and you got to go through all these doors and hallways. And I finally get there and I walk in the room and he's sitting upright, looks at me and goes, "Hey, Eric, thanks for coming." And I'm like, stop. I'm looking around. I'm like, wait a minute. What's going on here?
Totally, dude. It was weird.
It was awesome.
It was awesome. Dude, it was.
I couldn't ask for a better scenario than that. When you're flying home and you're thinking, my best friend's father's passing away right now. What am I walking into? This is going to be very sad, very tearful and dreadful. And then you walk in and like, it was the coolest situation that situation could have produced. But I mean, there's a lot to what you said, you know, fasted state, all that type of stuff, sweating, nutrition, but also, you know, having your family there by his side all day, every day, even when they are not conscious. Like the studies show that having your family there in the room improves survival rate on any type of reason you're in the hospital. But also, I remember when I talked to him and he goes, "Eric, they tell me I have cancer all over inside my body. They say, they tell me I have cancer." And he goes, "I don't have any cancer. And there's nothing. I'm fine." And the mentality of being of, I'm not sick, I'm strong, I'm as healthy as an ox and nothing can defeat me. I mean, that goes a long way as well. But also doing the right steps that he was taking to defeat cancer and stuff like that, and that you were helping him with. So
one thing I wanted to add, and I can say this because literally about 4 days ago, my dad shared this again, and he'll share it a couple times a year, is when he coded, he states that he left his body, okay? And he said everything was going 1,000 miles an hour, but it was like slow at the same time. And then when he came to, he said he got sucked back in. I mean, it's they've never seen anything like this at Freighter of a stage, you know, for peritoneal carcinomatosis.
which is in the stomach lining, right?
Stomach, yeah. So it's a stomach lining, but it went to his lungs. They showed the scan. It looked like he got shot by a bird shot. There's all these tumors all over stomach, lung. So he had stomach, lung, liver. That's where the cancer spread to. And yeah, it's a wild story, but bittersweet because of losing my brother and my mom a year and a half after that. You know, it's just, like I said, it's beyond what
Anybody should have to deal with.
I'm capable of even comprehending. So I turn that over to God. So,
well, thank you for sharing that story. I appreciate it. That's an emotional roller coaster, and it is every time you relive it. So very passionate about sweating, very passionate about sauna use and just health and wellness in general. Another thing you're very passionate about is ice baths, cold plunges, cold shock therapy. Do you remember how you got into it, how you got started, or what you learned, how you learned about it? Was there anybody that told you about it? Did you just hear about it and start trying it? Did you just see a river and jump in it? How'd that start?
it was polar plunge. I had 3 years sober, and I jumped in with my buddy, not knowing anything about ice baths. This is before any podcasts about ice baths. This is before I even heard about ice baths. And I jumped in. I got out, and I remember taking a shower. I was living on the east side at the time. And I was like, oh no, open the hole. Oh no, this is it. I feel unbelievable again, like the sauna.
Yeah.
That's what started it. So like cold showers, you know this, cold showers. I mean, I've jumped in river. Each day for the last, I don't know, 8, 9 years, cold water has touched my body. Where, and just like you with sweating, like it brings me mental clarity. And every person that I talk to that does it now, right? Because I mean, it's all over the place.
Yeah.
Get an ice bath at Costco. I mean, says the same thing. Like, it's free medicine. You feel good.
Yep, for sure. So I know there's a ton of different cold plunges, ice baths out there and stuff like that. You made your own, right?
Yeah, well, everybody starts like myself. I mean,
Yep.
I started with the metal trough.
Yep. Oh yeah. I remember using your sauna in the backyard and then going in the metal trough and then going in the shower and thinking that I just saw God. Intense.
It's so good. I mean, but yeah, so the metal trough, then what did I do with, yeah, then the metal trough then became the chest freezer in the garage. And,
So you bought a chest freezer, you kind of lined it with like some sort of waterproof thing or leak resistant, I
Linex.
guess. Linex.
Yeah.
Okay. And then, so then you've been using that and stuff. I got the Master Spa's Michael Phelps Chili Goat.
well, that's the best in the industry.
Yeah, and I mean it's going to be up there in price, but you'll have it the rest of your life.
Yeah.
And the thing is just it's got an internal chiller. That thing's top notch. But what are the biggest benefits that you see from using a cold plunge or ice bath?
The biggest benefit that I see using the ice bath over the sauna, okay, which they go hand in hand. You say, hey, Luke, take one away for the rest of your life. I would be like, you know, for me is first off the mental warfare that happens between these ears before I submerge myself in the ice water. And what I find is when I completely surrender to these thoughts of, no, you don't need to go in. Not today. You can skip today. You have to go in today. You know, you're going to feel better. You don't need, you know what I mean? The blah, blah, blah. And then when I shut that off and almost like a meditation state of just boom, and then going in, submerging, and then coming up. And everybody's like, well, I do 6 minutes. Like, hey, listen, I do a minute. Like, you know, now granted this water is 40 and below.
Yeah.
But there's no timeline for me. Okay. If I can get in the water and submerge myself and get out, that's a win. Number two is how do I feel? I physically, mentally, emotionally feel like Superman.
Yep. Oh yeah, for sure. And reducing inflammation and all the cold shock proteins. I mean, there's a ton of benefits, but it all comes back to the fact that you feel like Superman. And you know, one of the coolest things is not only do you practice what you preach, but also your family does as well. So you got your young son, George. Yeah, I'm always seeing online videos of George using the sauna, jumping in the cold plunge or the ice bath, and just preaching the benefits just like you do. So how rewarding is it to see George using the cold plunge?
Beyond, man. Like I wish I had these tools in the toolbox being an adolescent, going through high school with this. I had no idea, and that's where, like I told you, I found that somewhat distorted feeling with drugs and alcohol, dopamine, feeling good, but it's all a lie. Like it's all just garbage, right? Yeah. So showing George at 10 years old, yesterday example, I pick him up from school. He's got this hat on, this big fur hat thing. And he's like, Dad, I swear, he's like, Dad, I got a little bit of mental fog. He's like, do you think we can jump in the lake? I mean, looking over my 10-year-old saying that, I'm like, all right, I'm winning, as a dad, because I'm showing him somewhat the truth.
Yeah. That's awesome. I love seeing that. I love hearing that. All right. Is there anything else you want to talk about?
I'm just super stoked and excited, that you and I, and we can go out there in the world and share like what we live, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
We're not just trying to sell saunas, right? And go eat Doritos and watch Netflix. Like we live it.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh yeah.
We breathe it, we live it, and it's
who we are.
It's who we are, and it's our passion. And like, just like your story, just like my story, just like everybody out there listening story, when they find sauna and ice, it starts to change everything. It starts to change how they feel. It starts to change how they think about food or life or anything, right? And it makes them a better person. I have never sold a Good Health sauna in 9 years of selling them and having a person say, I don't like it, or I don't feel better after using it. Not one. So that's what excites me and keeps me going, because helping the next person like find the best version of themselves. What greater gift is that?
Yeah, I love it when somebody buys a sauna and then you see them at the next event and they just are so excited. They like run to you. Hey, Luke. Hey, Eric. How you doing? I use it exactly like you. I use it first thing in the morning. I feel like $1 million. Man, I wish I had this thing years ago. And like, they do the same thing that we do, and they find out the same things that we found out over a decade ago or about a decade ago. And it's very rewarding to do. And I wouldn't trade it for anything in the world. So, all right. Well, this is the Sweat Fanatic Podcast. This is Luke Amon. If anybody wants to get a hold of you, Luke, how do they get a hold of you?
Well, they can get a hold of me via Instagram at Sweat Junkie 11. So DM me and we can talk.
Yeah, absolutely. So, well, thanks for coming on. I love you. You're my best friend. We've been on a journey. We've been on a journey together for a long time, and we got a long ways to go yet too, brother. So we're gonna have a lot more episodes on here that you guys can listen to, but also reach out to either one of us if you're interested in any of this stuff. So if you enjoyed this episode, please like, share, and subscribe. Comments, we always love to hear from you, and I always love to hear from you. That helps us out tremendously. Check us out on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, anywhere that you see podcasts. I'm Eric Kralovitz. I'm the host of the Sweat Fanatics Podcast, and get out there and sweat.